K0VH AE7RJ.
Yeah, hey Randall, go ahead. K0VH. Well, just be that way, don't you? Okay. No worries, Randall. Be safe out there, and we'll talk to you next time. K0VH Wheat Ridge. Okay, guys, we're getting some inadvertent key-ups from the South Twin Falls, Idaho repeater in Colorado Springs. If you guys would please knock or chunk the system like that to see if you're making the repeater, you may come on and ask for a full radio check, though. That would be great. This is KE0VH. Going to be beginning the net in just about 5 minutes. Okay, guys, we're getting some inadvertent key-ups from the South Twin Falls, Idaho repeater in Colorado Springs. If you guys would please knock or chunk the system like that to see if you're making the repeater, right, and good evening, everybody around the SkyHubLink system, and to those of you watching on YouTube tonight. This is Jack, KE0VH. It's just a few seconds before 7 o'clock here in the Colorado Rocky Mountains. Welcome to the SkyHubLink Monday Night System-Wide Net. We have this net here every Monday night to discuss amateur radio and other interesting topics. SkyHubLink is not a closed system in any way. We welcome all users in the true spirit of amateur radio. Please remember during all use of this multi-mode repeater linking system to allow 3.5 seconds, 3 to 5 seconds between transmissions and 1.5 seconds for key up and then begin speaking. Also, to keep that PTT pushed a half second or so after your last word is very important. Remember, when you've got two people on the repeaters talking, please set up a rotation if there's more than two of you, so that you won't be doubling over the other parties in a round table, and it just sounds better and is easy to understand. Remember, you're on many repeaters and modes simultaneously. Good amateur operating practice is remembering that others also might need to use one of the many repeaters on the system during your QSO or join in on whatever it is you may be talking about. Let me reset. This is K0VH. All right, and remember, it's extremely important that if you're operating a hotspot on SkyHubLink, if you're in the YSF mode, that you do not enable the WiresX pass-through. Do not operate your radio in the WiresX mode to change reflectors when connected to SkyHubLink. Do use the web interface of your Pi-Star or hotspot to change reflectors. If you operate with YSF pass-through and control the Pi-Star with your radio while on the US SkyHubLink reflector 92722, it can then cause disconnect and link issues. Please do not use this feature of your hotspot when you're connected to SkyHubLink. Okay, Tom tells me my audio is way overdriven. It sounded good coming through the analog side. All right, Tom, I'm gonna back that down a little bit, and we're gonna hope for the best here. Doggone it. Let's see. Let's do that right there. Let me reset. This is K0VH. Okay, when you're testing your radio, when you're checking to see if your radio is working or you're making a repeater, please do not just simply key your radio and kerchunk the repeater to see if you're keying it up. Please do come on and verbally ask for a radio check. Kerchunking the system can cause link issues. It is really illegal as it's an unidentified transmission. Once again, to see if you're making the repeater, actually come on and ask for a radio check. Please too, when you're monitoring the system, let's see here. Please too, when you're monitoring the system and you hear somebody, okay, Tom says much better. All right, we'll go with that. Then actually come on and answer their call for a radio check because they need somebody to respond. So as all of us on the SkyHubLink are trying to get used to do, be sure to listen for those calls and respond when you can. Speaking of which, SkyHubLink is also here for safety and assistance for any communication needs, including emergencies. If you hear someone call for assistance or emergency help on a SkyHubLink repeater, you can dial your local 911 number and report that you're an amateur radio operator and you've just received an emergency call. Give them the details, and then they'll contact the appropriate agency in the appropriate area. Also, if someone just needs to reach out for any kind of help, maybe their tire's flat or whatever the case may be, let's answer their calls and make sure they receive the assistance needed. Is there any emergency traffic at this time? All right, everybody, this is a controlled net. All must check in to be recognized by NCS. You can check in if you'd like via the AIM window, but I'm taking precedence over radio check-ins tonight, so I'll take radio check-ins and then come to you guys there at the end of the radio check-ins, and we'll go through that list and then take another. Repeater owners and system operators will get you to check in first, and then we'll do that, but it's going to be a few minutes before we actually take check-ins. With us tonight is my good friend for many, many years, Cris Alexander W5WCA. Cris is the Director of Engineering for the Crawford Broadcasting Company. And, of course, each month he puts out a newsletter that I really recommend to you guys to check into and to check out. It's called the Local Oscillator. And, yeah, there we go. I had that. So let me bring that up on the screen here. And this is the local oscillator, May 2023. And this evening, it kind of is the driving force between tonight's topic. Cris writes in the beginning there, unless you've been living in a cave somewhere, it's very likely you've been hearing about the recent difficulties to beset the senior broadcast band, which is the AM broadcast band. So with that, we're going to get started tonight by talking to Cris, and I'll ask Cris a few questions, and he's going to talk about AM radio. What's it all about today? How relevant is it? How much longer do we think terrestrial broadcasting will last? How strong is it? Those of us who have grown up with it love AM. I still to this day love listening to music on AM. As a matter of fact, I love listening to one of Chris's stations here in the Denver metro area. So, Cris, are you there? W5WCA from K0VH. Okay, let me check something out there for some reason, and I think it might have been on my side. I know what it is. Let me do this. There we go. Cris, go ahead and come back. I had to pot the right pot up there. Come back, Cris. W5WCA from K0VH.
All right, this is W5WCA. How are you here?
All right, Cris, you are loud and clear and solid there on 449 450. So, Cris, tell me a little bit about some of your concerns that you presented in this last local oscillator, especially about the automobile industry and AM radio. Go ahead.
It's no surprise to anyone that AM has been on the decline for a long time for any number of reasons. Certainly FM has transitioned to be the preeminent broadcast band. That's happened a long time ago. But AM remains strong with tall formats and with niche formats and so forth, and it still remains strong. Top-rated stations in every market, the top money makers in every market, include AMs in their clusters. But it's been a perfect storm. We've had rising noise levels from everything, anything and everything, from Asian power grids to everything that has a microprocessor in it, poorly shielded appliances, you name it. Everything makes noise, raises the noise level. And then at the same time, we've had receivers that have just really declined in quality. Over the last decade or so, it's become increasingly hard to even find AM receivers. Go try and find an AM tabletop radio now. Good luck. You might find one in some old stock someplace, but as Shane Tobin told us about his experience at CES, there's not even news coming out. There's not any AM sections in any new radios, just not there. So that's been another part of the perfect storm. Let me reset here. Well, then, a couple of months ago, really it's been over a year now, that we started hearing about electric car manufacturers dealing with their EMI problems, with their AM radio interference problems, just by removing the AM receivers from the cars. I guess they got tired of listening to customer complaints that hey, I have all these weird noises and stuff. I can't hear the ball game. So they just dealt with it that way and removed them. GM didn't do that, and there was a couple of other manufacturers around that in their electric vehicles have employed better shielding and bypassing and so forth, and it's just not an issue. But I think that Tesla and most of the other auto manufacturers, including Ford, electric car manufacturers, have just opted to stop doing putting AM receivers in there and deal with it that way. That's been kind of we've been kind of like the frog in the kettle. That's been coming up slowly over a period of time. And it's electric vehicles, and, we're Americans. We love our SUVs. We love our hydrocarbon fuel vehicles. And so, I think we didn't really pay a lot of attention to that. We probably should have. But now, and this is just in the last month, Ford has announced that it will not be including AM receivers in its entertainment packages in any of its 2024 passenger vehicles. That's a big blow. And of course, you can't buy radios in the stores. You can't get them in the cars. That paints a picture for us, and it sets a timeline. And so a lot of folks have come out fighting this, and we as an industry are not taking it lying down. We're coming out swinging, and we have some strong support in Congress. We have support in some federal agencies like FEMA and other parts of the federal and state governments. I noticed that today the state of Georgia was getting behind an effort to persuade the automakers to reconsider because of all their traveler's information system. It's all on the AM band. Let me reset. So, what can we do? Well, I think the biggest thing we can do is get our radio stations involved and get the word out. The NAB has taken a big lead on this, and in fact they have a website and a toolkit online. It's a very easy URL here. It's nab.org/AM toolkit, all one word. And on that are a whole bunch of broadcast-ready spots, emergency alert talking points, spot scripts so you can run your own, sample live reads, sample text to listeners, sample emails to listeners, and then as a part of this, they have a link on there that you can give to your listeners to click that will tell the members of Congress to advocate for AM radio in vehicles. And we've been running this on all of our stations all across the country, AM and FM. And we've been getting a really good response. And we've heard back from our Colorado folks here. We've heard back from them in other states as well. I would offer one other thing here, and this is maybe the most disturbing thing of all about this. The automakers were asked by Senator Markey what their intentions were long term. This Ford came out with this announcement, and they said their intention was long term to not include AM because there were other sources available. Online streaming, and these connected cars, you can get the same information elsewhere via the online streams and so forth in the connected cars. So they concluded that AM is irrelevant today. Well, folks, how long will it be before they conclude that FM is irrelevant? Because the same thing is true of FM, that you can get the same streams, the same music, the same programming. You can get it all via online streams and connected cars. So I think this is not really an AM problem. I think this is a radio problem. Anyway, that's my take on it, Jack. So I'll throw it back to you and see what questions you or others might have. W5WCA.
Okay, Cris. Well, thank you for coming in tonight. And guys, I have known Cris, since probably about 1992. Longtime friends and know each other's families. It's been really an honor and a privilege. Cris has been both a broadcast engineering and just a really great gentleman, mentor to me. and have always thought the world of you, Cris, and of course your wife Phyllis and Amanda, and I've known you guys for years. We've worked together, and Cris, really, when it gets right down to it, is probably Cris. I like to brag on you this way anyway. You're one of the preeminent AM engineers here in the country, and you build stations so amazingly. And from the ground up, it would be really cool if we could do a presentation one evening on your build there in Southern California. That would really be something. But anyway, let me open up the questions. Does anybody have any questions for Cris or any ideas on what you think? Do you listen to AM radio these days? I do. You'll notice in the shack, if I pan the camera around, I've got a bunch of old Zenith Transoceanics, and there's nothing better than listening to the Rockies ball game, listening to baseball on one of these things, or listening to Chris's station, 8:10 a.m. That goes back and plays some of the older stuff, even some of the. I was really surprised. Cris heard a couple of '80s tunes in there. It was really good the other day. And my wife likes to turn that on our tube radio upstairs during dinner time. So what I'm going to do initially here is, do you have any questions for Cris regarding AM radio, or anything that you might like to expound upon, and some ideas, and maybe Cris could answer that? I'm going to take your check-ins that way for this topic this evening. And Cris, thanks for being here. So are there any check-ins with any questions for Cris regarding tonight's topic here on the SkyHubLink Monday Night System-Wide Net? Please call now with your call sign phonetically twice. This is K0VH.
W3WRR checking in with questions, huh?
Kilo Echo Zero Tango Papa Whiskey. I have a question.
Okay, Daryl, I've got you, and Joe, I've got you. By the way, Joe, Colorado Springs just magically came back sometime yesterday afternoon. Whatever it was you did, you fixed it. So that's good. Any other people who would like to check in with direct questions for Cris? Let me go ahead and get a couple more here if you're there. If not, we'll go back to Daryl and Joe. This is K0VH. Go ahead. All right then, Cris, you may get off easy this evening. W3ORR from K0VH. Daryl, good evening. Good to have you in here. Go ahead.
Good evening, Cris. Evening, Jack. Everybody else on the SkyHubLink. I joined a little late, so I didn't catch the topic there, but I've been reading up on AM radios and these new electric cars that they're going to try and do away with AM radio, but there's other people involved with the FCC saying that's a bad idea due to the distance emergency communications can travel on AM radio. I myself listen to AM radio when I'm out on the road, especially in northern Arizona, because there are no FM stations there, and I don't always listen to satellite. So I'm kind of curious what your input is. Do you think it's going to go away, or do you think we're going to end up keeping AM radio for a long time? Because I know the cost to a lot of radio stations and the money that they make on AM now would be astronomical if they had to switch to FM. W3ORR.
Well, my crystal ball is a little cloudy on this topic, but there's some things that logic would dictate. The topic really was spurred by Ford's announcement here a few weeks ago that they are going to, they're not going to put AM receivers in the entertainment systems of any of their passenger vehicles, gasoline or electric, beginning with the 2024 model year. And of course, we're all waiting for the other shoe to drop for other auto manufacturers to say the same thing. And as to what's going to happen, well, I guess the good news is people drive their cars a long time. They're so expensive nowadays. I mean, you have a house, you have a car payment that's what a house payment used to be, you know. And so people do tend to stay in their cars a long time. So it's not going to be, you know, starting in 2024, you won't be able to hear AM. It's probably going to be a 10-year decline as people swap these cars out. That's if we don't get something done at Congress. And by the way, I have really mixed feelings about a mandate from the federal government to include AM in all vehicles that have entertainment systems. For our industry, I think we have to have that because clearly the automakers aren't going to do it voluntarily. But anytime the federal government comes in and tells us that we have to do something, I think that's not good for the country. But it's not without precedent. Some of you folks are of an age that you would remember, as I do, the mandate to include UHF tuners in television sets, things like that in years past. So anyway, if that kind of thing kicks in, then that could really extend things for the long term. But if it doesn't kick in, I think we're probably looking at a 10-year decline in which a lot of stations, I think more of the major markets than the small markets, will drop off. They'll turn in the licenses, they'll sell the property, and take the money and run. But just like my home up in Grand Lake, Colorado, the only station up there, the only one, is an AM. And, you know, they have an FM translator, but it doesn't go too well through those granite walls all around. And so you can't hear it in the next valley where I live. And so that's going to be true in a lot of different places.
Okay, everybody stand by just a minute. Cris did hit the timeout timer there on 449-450, so we'll let him come back here. I've been putting some pictures up on the screen here, such as you see now, and this is some of the building that Cris and Amanda, you can see Amanda in this picture right here, W0HOP, building one of the antenna tuner boxes for one of the projects that Crawford Broadcasting had. Like I said, Cris is probably one of the preeminent design engineers in AM radio for the last 20 years, as a matter of fact. Let me see if Cris is back yet. Cris, are you there? I think you hit the timeout timer on 449-450. W5WCA from K0VH.
I guess I did. I hope it wasn't too long there. I'm actually on DMR now. Anyway, hopefully you guys heard most of what I had to say. It really probably had very little value because it's just my guess as to what's going to happen going forward.
Yeah, okay, Cris, that's awesome. That's awesome, and yeah, we got pretty much everything there, I think. KE0TPW, Joe, you are next here, and you had a question for Cris. So, Joe, go ahead down there in Colorado Springs. KE0TPW from K0VH.
Well, good evening, everybody. Jack and everybody on the net. Yeah, I had a question. If they move away from radio in the vehicles, what are they going to stream it over? Satellite? Is that the next thing coming? If they just get rid of radio, will we stream everything over satellite?
Well, clearly satellite is part of the equation, but that's a subscription service. But no, it's 5G. Essentially, it's 5G. It's a one-to-one model, and you know, these cars, you know, are connected, and you know, you have an account for them just like you would for your mobile phone, your wireless, and you can stream whatever in there. I guess the thing is, if we get more and more saturated with this stuff, I think they're going to find out that there is a limit to the amount of bandwidth that you can cram into a certain frequency, and I think that's going to be the big problem there. I was going to say something else earlier, and I forgot about it, but you reminded me there, Joe. I don't know what these automakers are really thinking, but if they kill off the radio stations, AM and FM, by eliminating the receivers in the cars, the streams that they say that you can get the same programming and so forth on will also go away. So if you want to listen to a local radio station that has news, weather, traffic in your local town, and the radio station is gone, bankrupt, giving it up, you think they're going to keep their internet stream going? There won't be enough revenue there to make that worthwhile. There's just too much competition in that sector. So anyway, it seems really short-sighted to me. Of course, I'm on this side of the argument, and I'm sure they have their own reasons for that. Most of them economic, I'm sure. Anyway, go ahead there, Joe.
Pretty much answered it for me. I just got a little comment. I've got a 5.2 1939 Montgomery Ward cable radio. 15 years ago, there was a station here in Colorado Springs that played a program called Big Band Jump, and it was about an hour program. It was about 15 years ago. I used to put that on that old radio, 1939 radio, and have a couple of beers. And boy, you go back in time. So, I love old AM radio, and I hope it sticks around for a while. So with that, I'll send it back to Jack and Lynette. Everybody have a good evening. KE0 GPW.
Hey, Joe, I just looked up Big Band Jump on the internet here, and it looks like there may be some ways that you can stream that, over TuneIn and some other deals on the internet. And that's kind of what I think Cris is alluding to some degree. We may end up having an awful lot of stuff streamed that'll come right directly to you as opposed to terrestrial radio. I don't think that we're going to have a problem with it going away in our lifetime anyway, and I hope it certainly hope for Cris and Amanda's sake it doesn't, because Crawford Broadcasting and so many other stations like KOA, for instance, they've got a viable big draw for their audiences, and they're there and they're supported, be it commercially or non-com, and they do very, very well. K-Love, although being on FM is kind of in the same way, but then again, too, you can hear all of these facilities via streaming because, they've set that up to be part of the internet culture. Cris, why do you think it's important for Crawford Broadcasting, for instance, that's predominantly AM? I know you've got some FMs there in the company, but why do you think it's important for you to stream your signals as well as broadcast them over the air?
About half and half, AM and half FM across the company. It's just one more way to listen. And, really what we sell is not RF particles floating through the air. My old friend Gordon Hargis called them fruitrons. So if you ever wondered what an RF particle is, it's a fruitron. And we don't sell fruitrons, we sell content. That's our game. And so however you get our content is valid. So if you get it on the radio, that's great. If you get it on a smart speaker, that's great. If you get it on your laptop or on your iPhone, whatever, all of that's great. It's just the important thing is that you get it, and I think that it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we not only have it available in every conceivable way, but also that it sounds incredible on every one of those vehicles.
W5WCA from K0VH and the SkyHubLink Monday Night System-Wide Net. I totally agree with that, Cris, and nobody does it better, I think, than my company and your company. And I know that you have the best-sounding AMs in the country, without a doubt, across the Crawford Broadcasting Company. Just go through some of the signals, guys, and if you're going to listen critically, listen for the differences in some of the different AM signals and how well those, Crawford Broadcasting does with theirs. So got to brag on you a little bit. Plus, I had, 8 or 9 year history with Crawford there. Used to do afternoons on KLZ, and Cris was my beginning radio broadcast engineering mentor and supporter and got me started there, and I'll be forever grateful for that. By the way, another thing I was going to mention, I just pulled up one of my wife's favorite radio shows that used to be on KEZW here in the Denver metro area on 1430 AM. Now they've gone to some stupid gambling format, but they used to air what I called big band and nostalgia music. And they had a program on there called Radio Deluxe, and with John Pezzarelli and Jessica Molaski. And my wife absolutely loved that. So when that went away on KZW, she was very sad. But man, that stuff sounded good coming through these tube radios that I have here. Maybe during the next question, we'll have. I'll try to show you one of those. Cris, where to? Where do you? Actually, we can help. Let me put it this way. We can help. What would be the best way for those of us who love AM radio, to help these days? W5WCA from K0VH.
Well, the most practical way is to go to that website, nab.org/AM Toolkit, and provide your program director, your manager, with those things. And if you're SM only, you should probably tell him that this is not just an AM problem, this is a radio problem, and that if AM is irrelevant because you can get the programming elsewhere, then FM may not be that far behind. And so go to that website, click that link. Tell your friends to click that link. Tell your members of Congress to advocate for AM radio and vehicles. It really couldn't be any easier. You put in your name, you put in your address, it figures out who your representatives are, you're both the Senate and the House, and it generates an email that then you can edit and put your own touches on it, and then click send, and away it goes. You can do that. I guess the other thing is, when you go to a dealership to buy a new car, ask if it has AM in it. If it doesn't have AM in it, make that dealer know that it's a deal breaker. It's got to have it. Whether you mean it or not, we should start sending that message. That may help us here. I don't know. But that's probably the most concrete thing you can do is just go to that website, nab.org/AM Toolkit.
Yeah, okay, Cris, we've had that up on the screen, on the YouTube screen, and I will try to make that available otherwise on the SkyHubLink website, as a matter of fact. All right, before we let Cris get away, does anybody have any questions for him before we go into the general portion here of the SkyHubLink net? We'll take check-ins and get your opinions on AM radio. Are you a fan? Are you a long-time listener? Do you listen to a stream? What do you do? I'd be curious to know what the SkyHubLink folks think about tonight's topic. So, any other questions or comments for Cris? Let's go ahead and get those in now. Get you checked in at this point, and we'll see what we get here. Your call sign phonetically twice. This is K0VH.
Whiskey 0 Kilo Papa Hotel. Whiskey 0 Kilo Papa Hotel.
5 India Mike Oscar. Kilo 5 India Mike Oscar.
Super Cris.
Okay, let me stop there and tell you who I got. I got Cat W0KPH. I got Kilo 5 India Mike Oscar. Cat heard W0PKB Mike in Loveland. And that last station there with a question for Cris. Can you come back? Let me get your call sign. Let me get your call sign there. Come back. This is K0VH.
Thanks, Jack. This is Bravo 80 NO Alpha Echo 0 November Oscar, St. Charles, Missouri.
Okay, Marvin, very good, very good. Let's go back to the top of the list and just ask Cris your question directly. K5 India Mike Oscar, Larry in Plano, Texas. Larry, good evening. Welcome to the net. What's your question for Cris?
No question for Cris. I just kind of roll of the dice as to when I can get onto the net. I always enjoy it when I can. Always enjoy the questions that come up and the answers in particular. I'm afraid I don't have any real questions for him. A5 IMO, back to net.
All right, Larry, very good. Well, Cris, you used to be down from in the Plano area, but I know Cat has a question for you direct. W0KPH from K0VH. Cat, go ahead.
Hey, Jack, this is W0KPH, and Cris, thank you for coming on tonight with this information. Mine's more of a comment, and I seem to... Well, I need to put my tinfoil hat on, and y'all just going to have to humor me for a moment. This seems to be a domino that, like Cris says, once we lose AM, then it's FM, and then they control the information we get. But what I see happening here, less AM, so less audience. Less audience, you have less businesses advertising on the radio, which then you have a revenue stream to the AM radio that dries up to the stations and communities. And the small town stations, I think, are going to really suffer because there'll be no revenue stream for them, and therefore information is gone. Sources of information. I think there's more to this than the radio interference and this and that in cars. And that's just my comment. I'm not going to go further into my tinfoil hat. But I think it's sad. And once we lose AM, then we're going to lose FM. And, yeah, it's just going to continue. It's a domino. And the first one's about to fall. This is W0KPH.
W5WCA from K0VH. Cris, do you have any follow-up to that?
Hello, Ted. I think you're absolutely right. It is a domino effect, and we can really look back 10 years probably and see what's happened coming this far, and now we see that it's the slope is getting steeper because of these other changes that are going on. So yeah, we face a lot of competition now, a lot of competition in the dashboard, a lot of competition on every front, and we're going to be relevant or we're going to be irrelevant. A lot of that has this programming question, but the bottom line is if we don't have the receivers out there, that is fundamental. That's an existential issue right there. You got to have the receivers in order to exist. So anyway, that's my take on it.
All right, Cris and Kat, they're very, very good. By the way, you saw the picture that I put up of Cris and Amanda. Cris is a private pilot and enjoys flying as well. So Cris has a lot of irons in the fire. Speaking of which, tomorrow night, I'll talk about this a little more in detail in a few minutes, but I'm going to do my first live stream of my flight simulator. We're going to fly Freedom 1 from Denver to Salt Lake City tomorrow night, and I'll send out a link on that just a little bit later. All right, let's see. Next on the list is Alpha Echo Zero November Oscar AE0NO from K0VH. Good evening. Welcome to the net. Do you have a question or comment for Cris on the subject of AM radio?
Thanks, Jack. I certainly do. I'm in Metro St. Louis, home of KMOX, a veritable institution in AM radio and in our community. We love listening to the Cardinals on the radio, and we certainly love listening to Mike Shannon, God rest his soul. And one thing people don't realize is that KMOX is like number one in tornado warnings and storm warnings. And with their tremendous reach, they're in a position to help keep us safe. I think that's another link that people forget, that what the service that AM radio provides. So, I definitely will start communicating with my representatives, senators, and so forth, and advocate for AM radio. This is AE0NO.
There I am. Let's see. Let's do this. Cardinals legend Mike Shannon passed away at the age of 83. That's like we lost Vince Scully, is the voice of the Dodgers, a few years ago now. And, so many of these guys that we grew up listening to. I put KMOX's website up on the YouTube screen here. The Voice of St. Louis. I used to listen to KMOX down in Chattanooga, Tennessee at night, and WLS in Chicago. And, Cris alluded to the fact in the beginning that the noise floor is so loud. We notice it on our amateur radio HF bands. Sometimes here in the city, I just don't do necessarily a lot of HF because there's so much noise on there. So there you go. That unfortunately is very hurtful to AM radio. And here's the thing too, and I think this is a bit of a trend which kind of scares me. But Cris, we'll see if we have anybody else that has a question for you. W0PKB, I will come to you next. But not a single one of my children. I'm the parent of 8. My wife and I have had 8 kids, ranging in ages, I should say, from, let's see, how old is Josh? He's 42 down to 21. And, Cris, not a single one of them listens to the radio at all, period. It's all streaming, it's all Spotify, it's all these services that they can get on their cell phone. And I don't know anybody young who listens to the radio at all, and I ask quite frequently. And I'm a little bit dismayed at that. W0PK, any kind of radio, any kind of terrestrial broadcasting at all. W0PKB, go ahead. Your question for Cris tonight from K0VH. You're up.
PKB, my thought on this, you're talking about, they're shutting down the AMs and the FMs. And I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but, somewhere down the line it's going to be a state-run media system.
Well, I don't know that I necessarily agree with that, but, and I'm not necessarily into any of the conspiracy theories or any of that, but there you go. Everybody has an opinion on that, and, there you go. I don't know what else to say to that. Do we have any other check-ins at this time? We have a specific question for Cris, and we'll let him break loose, and then we'll get into the rest of the net. And, Cris, thanks for hanging around with us here. Any other questions or comments? Give me your call sign twice so we can have you check in, and we'll get that to Cris before he gets away. This is K0VH looking for your check-in at this time.
5 in there, Mike Oscar, recheck.
Kilo Delta 4, Delta Tango. Kilo Delta 4, Delta Tango.
Kilo 2, Delta Yankee, Victor Kilo 2, Delta Yankee.
All right, then. We'll pull up there. I'll tell you who I heard. I heard, let's see, Kilo Delta 4 Delta Tango. And let me check here on this. K5 IMO, you have a recheck. That'll be fine. W8 JMC and VK2 Delta Yankee. So, Chris, if you don't mind hanging on a few more minutes. K5 IMO, let's go ahead and get you back in here. Larry, you had a question or comment for Chris?
Hi, IMO. Yes, sir. Just a quick comment. It would appear to me that the situation with AM is roughly equivalent to what's happening with shortwave. I can recall even 15, 20 years ago, I used to listen religiously to BBC on shortwave every night because I could get some pretty reliable information about what was going on in the world. Well, BBC doesn't transmit in the U.S. anymore for reasons that I don't quite understand. Maybe it's just lack of interest. But I think that's probably has happened largely with or with shortwave now. There's really not that much interest in shortwave. And it's sad because at one time there was a plethora of information, reliable information one could get from around the world. But not so. Anyway, that's my comment. K5 IMO, back to Ned.
Okay, Larry. Yeah, it kind of breaks my heart that there aren't any shortwave broadcasters anymore. Chris, do you have a comment on that? I think you could probably enlighten us a little bit. Yeah, why did we lose shortwave broadcasting?
I think there are some parallels, certainly, but the difference is that, AM was universal for so many years, and really almost still is. Everyone has access to it. Whereas with shortwave, it was a few that had shortwave receivers. I mean, you look down the block in the heart of in the middle of the shortwave days, and you might find one house that had a radio capable of receiving the shortwave. So it was a limited interest to start with, and it just got completely taken over by the internet. That's really all there is to it. I don't see any other reason for it, really. It's just it was a long distance broadcast media, and there's just no need for it anymore with the internet stream. It's not a local broadcast media like AM, so there are some similarities, but I think there's some significant differences as well.
Yeah, Chris, I would agree. As a matter of fact, I put this up on the screen. My favorite shortwave broadcasting station, I love the BBC. I loved it when you could listen to Radio Moscow. That was always fun, the Voice of America. But HCJB, Quito, Ecuador. Now, of course, they're an ICO. They're still a ministry. They're not doing what they did all those years. I have a book that talks about the beginning of HCJB. Of course, HC was the beginning call letters that they were signed by Ecuador, but the call letters stood for Heralding Christ Jesus Blessings. And just some fascinating old pictures that I'm putting up on the YouTube screen right now. That's so cool. And I would invite those of you who love the history of this stuff to go back and look at this. I'm just amazed at Clarence Jones and the early starting of HCJB and what they did over the years to bring the good news of Jesus Christ to those who spoke the Spanish language, but of course they also had an English service. And they used to have a great show on called Ham Radio Today, I think it was. I actually got to be on that one time. It was awesome. I got to have a little interview with one of the guys down there. So I actually got to hear my voice coming back from HCJB. I had a missionary friend who went down there, and he took some recordings that I had made, and I actually got to hear my voice coming back from HCJB in Quito, Ecuador. It was just amazing. Cris, I don't know if you remember that, but that's when I was working for KLZ too. So let's go ahead and get on down the list here, because Cris, it's getting a little late for you. I know. Thanks for sticking around with us here for a few minutes. I think we had a couple of more. Tom, KD4DT, and then I'll get to W8JMC. Go ahead, Tom, KD4DT from K0VH.
This is KD4DT. I just wanted to add, most of the conversation has been geared towards AM and FM radio. I kind of come from the television side of things and have had discussions with my colleagues about the longevity of over-the-air, free-air television broadcasts, the advent of the 5G cell phone, and so it not only trickles from the AM to the FM, but also into the television broadcast side of things. So sorry to see it happen that way. KD4DT, back to that.
Okay, Tom, thank you very much. Appreciate your comments there. John W8JMC, did you have a question or comment for Cris? W8JMC from K0VH. All right, guys, going down the list to Robert in Callowville Ridge, New South Wales, Australia, VK2DY. Robert, did you have a specific question or comment for Cris? Go ahead.
Yes, I do. My first question is, well, why can't AM send out a digital signal? And the other concern that I have is if the problem, one of the reasons why they're taking AM away, I live in Detroit, so I got some inside information, is because they don't want to spend the money. The manufacturers of the automobiles do not want to spend the money on these electric vehicles to isolate the noise and get rid of it with electric vehicles versus AM. That's one of the problems. So it is economic for them. That's my comment, but my question is, why can't AM go digital? Go ahead, Jack.
Okay, Cris is the perfect one to ask that question. W5WCA, do you have a follow-up there for John in Welch, West Virginia? Go ahead, Cris.
Yeah, I think that's Mike in Clinton Township, Michigan. Hey, Mike. You're dead on with the reason. They just don't want to spend the money on the shielding. They have to shield the cables to the motor controllers. Those are the big things. All cars have computers in them, and they all spit out some junk. I've got two Ford Explorers. One's 20 years old, one's a whole lot newer, and the newer one, even on a 50 kilowatt station, I hear all kinds of weird noises and stuff. I shut the engine off, it all quits. And, it's engine control computers and stuff. And the electric vehicles are, they have the motor controllers that are spitting out all kinds of really high-level stuff. And they could shield all of that. GM has done it, and it works fine. But they just don't want to spend the money on it, so you're dead for AM and digital, we do transmit in digital. In fact, right there in Detroit, my 3 AMs all transmit in hybrid digital. And if you have an HD radio, it receives HD FM and will also receive HD AM. And it'll lock right up and brilliant 15 kilohertz stereo. So we do transmit. And more of late, some stations have been going all digital and doing away with the analog altogether. Some kind of a slow transition because they, as soon as they flip the switch to do that, they kill off all the analog audience, and a lot of stations aren't willing to do that, and we're not either at this point. But anyway, we do transmit in digital there, so go ahead.
Okay, Mike, any follow-up to that there in Welch, or if you're in Detroit, you said? Anyway, yeah, Mike, go ahead. Any follow-up to that?
And put the digital receivers in the cars, and maybe that way they wouldn't need as much isolation. But the news I'm getting here in town in Detroit is it's an isolation issue with electric vehicles, and they're not willing to spend. The car companies are not willing to spend the money isolating stuff for AM. So that's my 2 cents. Thanks, Jack. Excellent subject tonight. I really like it. Back to net control. This is Whiskey 8 Mike Juliet Charlie in Detroit.
Yeah, okay, Mike, there you go. Kat, if you would change number 10 to Mike Juliet Charlie instead of Juliet Mike Charlie, that's where the confusion came from. Mike, thank you very much. Good to hear you tonight. One more time for Robert, VK2DY. You are next on the list. Robert, are you there? Did you have a question or comment for Cris regarding tonight's subject?
Good morning, Robert. This is Robert, BK2Y in Northwestern Sydney. I bought my brand new VW Multivan. There was no option for AM. It was either FM or FM DAB+. There would be 2 choices of radios. I got the FM DAB+, but they did not offer any AM radio at all. And we're 86% urban here, so I think the digital audio seems to work well for us. But I know I use CarPlay in my car, and I love it because all of the AM stations here are right-wing net jobs, and so I get much more diversity from CarPlay than I would from an AM tuner. So I'm a CarPlay aficionado. But my question was, is there a U.S. equivalent to DAB+? Obviously that would be, with the rest of the world, would be TV for TV. Is there a U.S. equivalent to DAB+? VK2DY.
I guess, Jack, you want me to jump in and answer that? Well, of course, it's the HD radio system that we use in the U.S. and Canada. A bunch of Toronto stations run HD radio, and, it's an in-band on-channel or really in-band adjacent channel system. But that's it. We don't have dedicated digital bands like they do in Europe and in other parts of the world. So we were really forced to make digital work within our existing broadcast spectrum, and so that's what it is, HD radio. Love it or hate it, W5WCA.
Yeah, okay, Cris. And I got to tell you guys, too, it really sounds great. My Tacoma that I drive around has an HD receiver in it, and when it jumps onto that music station that Cris has here in Denver, it sounds great. It sounds wonderful. And I would really encourage you guys, if you do have an HD radio tuner, to check that out on 8:10 a.m. Well, listen, Cris, I'm going to let you go because we've already held you a little longer than I originally intended, and I know you've got to get up early in the morning. So thank you so much for being here tonight and for answering the questions. And we'll continue the discussion on till about 8:30 here on the SkyHubLink repeater. So, Cris, thank you very much. W5WCA from K0VH.
Well, thanks for having me, Jack, and with that, enjoyed it very much, and look forward to catching you guys when we're doing the walk. 7-2 all, W5WCA.
Yeah, Cris, good night, and good night to Miss Phyllis here. Y'all have a great evening. Okay, let's go ahead and take another round of check-ins. I do have some check-ins that came through the AIM window. I will pick you guys up here in just a few minutes, but got to give precedence to the radio check-ins. So let me go ahead and take another round, and then we'll do the whole swath of you there. That might wrap out the net here. So if you'd like to check in and have not yet by radio, please go ahead and let's get you checked in now with your call sign and only your call sign phonetically twice. This is K0VH with the SkyHubLink Monday Night System-Wide Net.
King Charles 8, Foxtrot Victor, KC8FQV. Kilo Delta 4, Alpha Charlie Golf. Kilo Delta 4, Alpha Charlie Golf.
Kilo Alpha 9, Whiskey Delta X-Ray. Kilo Alpha 9, Whiskey Delta X-Ray. Alpha India 7, Oscar Foxtrot. Alpha India 7, Oscar Foxtrot.
Okay, we'll go ahead and stop there. Let's see. Let me tell you, I heard Kilo Charlie 8, Fox Queen Victor, KD4ECG, KA9WDX, Alpha India 7, Oscar Foxtrot. And let's see, I think that kind of squares us up there for the moment. And then, Kat, if you want to go ahead and move all the AIM window check-ins, we'll start with Burness KI0AR. By the way, you guys can track where we are on NetLogger tonight under the SkyHubLink system net. So tonight's topic, once again, is AM radio. What do you think these days? Do you listen to it? Do you think that it's going to be relevant? Do you miss it? Do you miss some of the things about it? Is it too noisy where you live? What are your comments tonight on that? Mark in Aurora, Ohio, KC8FQV. You're next. Go ahead, Mark. Good evening, and welcome to the net from K0VH.
All right, Jack, KCFK. Apologize. I don't listen to radio much. And I don't even listen to AM radio. I don't listen to AM. I don't listen to radio a lot. Oh, I do. I listen to AM radio. So, I don't listen to the broadcast radio that much. So, I don't know. I had a FM, mode deal that was the digitals. I'm even trying to know where I put that thing at. But we'll send it back your way, Jack, and I gotta go find your YouTube channel so I can see what's happening. I have had it up in the past week, so KCFP, back it comes.
Okay, Mark, very good, very good. I'll go ahead and hit this camera view. I'm trying to move my camera around so you can see some of my old radios here, so we'll go ahead and hit that. You can see some of my Zenith Transoceanic radios up there along the top shelf, along with everything else, and then I've got another shelf full of radios down on that shelf. Those are all tube radios. They all work. They're very incredible. They're just absolutely wonderful, and they sound great. They've been restored, and it's been a lot of fun having those around. I still listen to them. Listen to KOA a lot on them, and like I said, Chris's music station, and all of that kind of thing. By the way, if you want to check the YouTube stream, you can by going to the Nets page at SkyHubLink.com, and then go down to the Monday Night Nets section. Let me get that set there, and you can click on that and get the YouTube stream, and then it will be up for review after tonight's net. So the Nets page at SkyHubLink.com. All right, let's see. Jason in Florida, KD4ACG. Jason, good evening. Welcome to the net.
Hey, Jack, good evening from San Diego, where I'll be the next 10 days. KD0VH, KD4ACG. Love this topic. Thanks for hosting this net tonight. I've never been in the business, always an outsider looking in, but really fascinated with AM back. I think most of us getting into the hobby spent more than just a little bit of time listening to AM and listening as far as we could go. And I miss those times, especially, a few years back, it seemed like the radio station seemed a lot more local. You tune into a city, and it felt like that city. Now I think you can name 5 companies and probably name 90% of the station's owners. And I think sports format is a sports format now. In just about every city, they all sound the same. So it's kind of lost its appeal there. It's I want to say interest, but that's not really it. But I think that's one of the things that's happened. I think some of it, too, is real estate that these sites are on. I was coming back from my last trip. I had to connect in Houston. Passed over this beautiful AM site. Looked like it, I think they said it's 9 towers at night and 11 towers in the day. I mean, it was this sprawling site. And I can't imagine what the value of the real estate is. And I think for many of these stations, it's just too good a deal to pass up. So I think we're losing some stations that way. One other station mentioned going digital. And yes, where I live in Tampa, we did have a station that went pure digital on AM. And let me reset here. Yeah, we had one station that went purely digital. I think we were AM 1450 in Tampa. And if I live just outside the footprint of it, so I don't get to hear it a lot unless I'm in Tampa proper. But I think they may have since gone back to hybrid analog digital. But one of the problems you run into on digital, especially on AM, is you do have a much smaller footprint than you do on analog. I mean, analog, if there's noise in the signal, you can still pick it up. If it's strong, you're not going to pick them up. So not only do you lose listeners because there are fewer people who have compatible radios, but you also lose listeners on the fringe of the coverage just because the station doesn't reach out that far. I don't know if they can increase power or not and make up for that, but that's another one of the things. But I would certainly hate to hear AM radio go away. I've been fascinated with it, and I think my most fascinating one was 2018. I was out in Hawaii, listening on the radio in the car, and I'm listening to KNX in Los Angeles, and I looked it up on the map, 2,500 miles away, and it sounded like a local, and I'm still blown away by that. So again, thanks for this topic. I could go on all night. Really enjoyed it that much, but I'll pass it back to you. 730 KD4ACG.
Jason, very good. Good comments there. I appreciate that. Chris was talking about how it's hard to find cabinet tabletop radios anymore. They actually do have a few of them. Several component pieces that I found, but this one I'm looking at for about $140. It's a Syngeon HD radio. Also includes AM, and my guess is that this one would probably get the it says HD radio digital and analog AM. So there you go. You could actually listen to the digital AM on that. That would be really, really cool. Not a bad price there for a home radio as well. Jason, thank you for your thoughts there. Let's go ahead and go to Bernard, or is it Bernie in Medford, Wisconsin? KA9 WDX. This is K0VH. Your comments for the net tonight.
Okay, Jack, K0VH, K9WDX. I'm trying to get further away from my other station here. Well, the FEM 100 is running my wires X because the audio is coming through there. So you might hear an echo. Maybe I'll put a switcher line there to shut the speaker off. Anyway, AM radio, yeah, I remember that way back in the 70s when I was in high school. I got my first multi-speed bike, 10-speed Hiawatha, and I had an AM bike radio on there. And even up here in north central Wisconsin, I was picking up WLS from Chicago, and once in a while I could get the KWAY from Little Rock, and AM radio. But it seems to me I heard that they came out with AM stereo too, but I never listened to that, AM stereo. But as far as digital on AM, I don't know how I feel about that. I haven't had enough time to think about it. But yeah, those are my two favorite stations on AM broadcast. WAY or KAY and WLS from Chicago. And so I had a Woods 10-band, a Woods Airline 10-band radio in the 70s. My dad had an AM tabletop radio. It had the AM only tube type. It was an old Philco, I think it was gray in color, electric, and I put it into the wall. And that was the only tabletop AM radio or FM radio that had tubes. 7 streams back from that, the K0VH, K9WDX.
All right, Bernard, thanks for your comments tonight there from Medford, Wisconsin. Yeah, I used to listen to all those same stations too down in Chattanooga, Tennessee. You notice Freedom 1 here behind me. I'll talk about that in just a minute, but let's talk to Jay in Laramie, Wyoming. AI70F. Jay, what are your comments for the net tonight? This is K0VH.
Hey, Jack. I thought I'd start out saying that I'm technically a millennial. I'm in my 30s. I'm a programmer here in Laramie. And I listen to my local jazz FM station when I drive around in my Subaru. It doesn't get very far, but I also know that the AM stations in Wyoming are very good at carrying the Cowboys game. I also have better coverage than other sources out there. There's some places in Wyoming where AM is the only form of radio you can receive. No FM stations, no cell phones, 5G otherwise. And the other thing about AM I want to point out is that I might be able to actually just build an AM receiver out of bits. So, that if the apocalypse happens, I might be able to actually build a radio. And these are also the reasons that I got into ham radio. And I would be very sad if AM radio was not around anymore. AI70F, back to that.
Okay, Jay, very good. Thanks for being here tonight. Appreciate your comments. Bernice, are you there? KI0AR from K0VH. Bernice, welcome to the net. What are your questions or comments?
Good evening, Jack and the net. Yeah, I kind of grew up with AM. That's what kind of got me interested in AM radio way back in the late 60s and 70s. I was, so I listened to WLS at night in Virginia when we were camping. My brother and I were rocked out in the station wagon, and that was the only station that would come through beautifully. So we would get to listen to the radio at night and listen to various broadcasts, AM broadcasts from around the world, especially during the Vietnam era, and listening to the casualty reports and hearing the communist version and the U.S. version. And, you know, but okay, maybe skeptical about just news in general. Okay, who's telling what? But, yeah, it will be let's see, it'll be sad to see that go. One other thing that, you travel up and down the highways and you tune into the AM 570 or 590 or something like that for traffic reports and stuff like that. So I'm assuming that those would go away as well. So, for emergencies or what have you, weather alerts along the various highways too. So probably going to end up missing that. Back to you, Jack. This is KI0AR.
Hey, Bernice, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I remember hearing those too. Sorry, I was putting my email up there on the YouTube screen. Didn't necessarily mean to do that, but got a couple of things out there. Yeah, I remember hearing those and hearing about those, Bernice. And a little scary back in the day. John in Littleton, W7PJ, JPJ. By the way, don't forget tomorrow night, the Colorado Astronomy Net with Bernice here on the SkyHubLink at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. W7JPJ, John in Littleton, good evening. What are your comments for the net? This is K0VH. All right, I guess John had to run. KF0EYS, Paul, are you there? Hey, Paul, good evening. Are you still listening? All right, we'll go ahead and go down the list. W9EJH, Earl in Bloomer, Wisconsin. Good evening. Welcome to the net.
Good evening, Jack. It's W9EJH here, and I've been monitoring this pretty close because it affects me pretty hard. I'm still running the 1956 Chevy with an AM-only radio in it. Sounds kind of funny maybe to some of you guys. Every Saturday morning I go out for a drive if I can, if the weather's nice. And I tune into a car tech support on AM. I believe it's 1150 AM in the Bloomer area, and I just go out driving around and listen to that, kind of bring back the old days. So that's one of the things that I would hate to see AM disappear for. I have been looking for a FM to AM converter, but I haven't found one yet. I do have one, but it doesn't work, so I'm kind of looking for another one somewhere. When you talk about the noise from the new cars bothering the AM radio, what's it going to do to the AM radio when you get a whole pile of cars on the road? That should be another question that would be in my mind, I guess, on the HF side. Can't imagine all that buzzing and thing and the noise that goes on with all of SCR controllers around the motors. That's going to be a real nightmare. So that would be another disappointment there down the road, what it's going to do for noise pollution in the air. W9EJH here, take a break. Long-range plan, it sounds like the government wants a lot of control again, full control. If they take away enough receivers, they could eliminate everybody's ears, and then they could make them listen to what they want to in FM and get control of that stuff. So I'm pretty opposed to having that AM stuff disappear. The other thing I like about it is when I'm in Florida. I live down here in the winter, and then I live in Bloomer area in the summertime. And when we travel from Bloomer to Florida and Florida to Bloomer, FM radio doesn't go very far, just like a ham radio, and then you got to find another repeater or find another radio station.
Okay, Earl, we seem to have lost you there. You dropped out. Did you get to finish saying everything you wanted to say? KE0VH.
He's still talking. He's just now clearing on analog.
Okay, it looked like something didn't connect there. Anyway, Earl, thanks for your comments tonight. And let's see, you made one or two there that I was going to comment back on, but they escaped me for the moment. Sorry about that. Steve in Kansas, N0ZZN, you're next on the list from the AIM window. Steve, good evening. If you're still there, welcome to the net. Any comments for the net? Okay, let's see if Mark's in there in Webster, Florida. KX4LEO. No, you're checked out. Okay, sorry. Harold, are you there in Pueblo? W0ZZS. Good evening. Welcome to the net. Your comments?
Good evening, Jack, and everybody on the net. Interesting topic tonight. I'm talking to you on the 5065 from my kitchen table here. I like either one. AM and FM, both are good. Of course, you got high fidelity with FM, and you don't necessarily with AM, so that's one of the features about FM. But AM is fine. I still operate AM. I did before I left Lahonda. I can't. I still can't from my mobile unit, and it's still my intention to stay on AM and check into the Collins Collector's nets and all those AM nets on the ham radio. So they're a lot of fun. I used to work for AM station here in Pueblo. I used to work for KCSJ years ago. And as an engineer, part-time engineer, and but AM is wonderful. I like to listen to the music and the reports, and so my listening is not necessarily whether it's AM or FM, but the programming that I'm listening to. So anyway, Jack, interesting topic tonight. So thank you for doing that, and I would thank everybody. K0VH, W0Z, that's over.
All right, Fred, great to have you in here tonight. Thanks for jumping in and being a part of the net. Yeah, tomorrow night I'm going to be streaming a in-flight simulator on YouTube here, and I'll send that out address to. I'll send the link out in our email here tonight, so be watching for that. Brian in Fairplay. Brian, glad to have you up tonight. K6SKI from K0VH. Brian, any questions or comments for the net?
Hey, good evening there, Jack, Chris, everybody else out there. I don't have any questions or comments, but I enjoyed the topic tonight. I've always been a fan of AM and worked at an AM station when I was really, just kind of out of high school. So I have a little bit of affection for it. So I'm glad we still have it, and it was a great topic tonight. But I'll pass it back so those who have some questions can get them in. Have a great evening, everybody. 7-3 from K6SKI.
Okay, Brian, thanks for being here. Appreciate it as always, my friend. Thanks for the great job you and the guys do on the WeatherNet every day here on the SkyHubLink system. Let's see, N0TTZ, my good buddy Ted up in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Ted, are you still with us tonight? Any questions or comments for the net? All right, then. Let's go to Graham in Glasgow. Looks like Scotland. Mike 1 Delta Echo Alpha. Mike 1 Delta Echo Alpha. Any questions or comments for the net tonight from K0VH? All right, let's see if Dave is there in 0KM down in Center, Colorado. Dave, are you there?
Yeah, good evening, Jack and the net and 0KM. Interesting net tonight, and made me think back to 2002 when we had a big wildfire west end of the valley and all the smoke and stuff, and our local Alamosa AM station, KGIW, they had at least one or two people reporting on it, and so we had local news on the spot there, and we're seeing less and less of that sort of thing. Just everything's getting too centralized, in my opinion. But not be centralized does cost money. So anyway, back to net there. We'll see if we can't tune you in tomorrow night, Jack, in 0KM.
Yeah, okay, Dave. I will for sure send that out, the link for that in an email. So be watching for that, and I'll probably put it on the Nets page at SkyHubLink.com. Just in case. All right, Dave, thank you so much. Let's see, 449-450 is leaving us for the Rocky Mountain Radio League net tonight on 449-450 and 146.94. We still have 447.100 and 447.050 here in Denver proper that you can still hear us on analog, but we're going to wrap up the net here pretty quick tonight. Let's see, Gary, NC2WX, before I come to you, I want to show everybody a couple of things here. Tomorrow night on the SkyHubLink, well, actually not on SkyHubLink at all. I'm going to be streaming. I'm going to be streaming a flight in the Freedom 1 in the 737 here. It'll be the first time that I'll actually do the live stream of a flight from Denver to Salt Lake City, KDEN to KSLC. And I will invite you into the flight deck here of the 737-800 that is parked at gate C43, I believe, here at Denver International Airport. So we'll be taking off tomorrow evening on the live stream, which will be in the email. So if you don't get our email yet, go to the join contact page at skyhublink.com, and we'll look forward to flying in the Freedom 1 737. Got my little model here, of course, beside me, and tomorrow night we'll take off and go from Denver to Salt Lake City, and I may start streaming some fun little flights there. I've got a gentleman that I really enjoy watching. His name is Captain Canada on YouTube, and man, he does it so professionally. It is so cool. I'm not anywhere near set up to do that like him, but kind of beginning. We'll see what happens down the line. NC2WX from KE0VH. Gary, are you still with us tonight?
Good evening, Jack, and everyone on the net. The NC2WX somewhat with y'all. So, thank you for that topic tonight. Many thanks to Cris for all that valuable information. It is a bit disconcerting, I guess. I don't know what other words to apply to it, that we risk losing the AM band. That had always been sort of the bastion of independent transmitting, and of course, as time has gone by here, isn't so much that anymore, but losing all those independent transmitter sites does raise a few points of concern. And of course, then the revenue stream that Chris pointed out, too. Losing all of that would be tremendous. I don't know what to think about the auto manufacturers. Certainly it seems that they could deal with that if the price is a little higher, which it is on electric cars anyways. So be it, in my opinion. But at any rate, yeah, we lost all of the broadcasting, most of the broadcasting in the shortwave band, and now for this to happen, eventually, possibly, not such good news. At any rate, I wish I could come up with a bright side there, Jack, and everyone can't, sort of. So I'll turn it back to Ned. Everyone have a great evening. And this will be MC2WX back to KE0VH.
Okay, Gary, very good, man. Thanks for being here tonight. Thanks for running the WeatherNet every day and keeping us all informed on that on the SkyHubLink repeater. Such a very valuable service, and we look at growing that even more. So, guys, I thought I'd take one last round of check-ins. We're going to go ahead and close the net, but if you have not got to check in yet but would like to get on the list, let's go ahead and check you in real quick before we close the net out. Want to thank Kat once again for doing such a great job down there, W0KPH. And, yeah, let's get you checked in if you have not yet, but we're going to close the net out. So last call for check-ins for the SkyHubLink Monday night system-wide net. Please call now with your call sign and only your call sign phonetically twice. This is K0VH.
November 5, America, Quebec, Mexico. 5, America, Quebec, Mexico. Reserve.
Whiskey 4, Bravo Papa Tango, W4, BP2, Billy, West Virginia.
November 9, Victor United. November 9, Victor United, over.
All right, I got November 5 Alpha Quebec Mike in there, as you can see on the NetLogger screen, and November 9 Victor Uniform Gary in Schaumburg, Illinois. Gary, sounds like you're coming in on DMR. Your audio's really loud, perfectly clean, but really loud. The Whiskey 4 Bravo something Tango, I really could not understand what you were saying. Give me that call sign again phonetically twice. The Whiskey 4, come back one more time. This is K0VH.
Whiskey 4, Bravo Papa Tango. Whiskey 4, Bravo Papa Tango.
All right, we got you then. Billy in Charleston, West Virginia. Bill, I see you coming through. You must be on the Do Drop In conference coming through the Colorado Springs repeater into SkyHubLink there. Hey, you're check-in number 32 tonight. Want to thank everybody for checking in. It's been a great net. It was an interesting topic, but I do got to run. I want to thank Kat, W0KPH, Cris, W5WCA, of course, for being our special speaker tonight on the topic of AM radio. Is it going away? What do you think about it? That was a really good topic tonight, and we'll look forward to having some more of those as time goes on. I want to try to have some other special guests and speakers and topic hosters and all that kind of thing here on the SkyHubLink Monday Night Net. So with that, we'll wrap it up. Thanks again to Skylar, W0SKY Chief Engineer, Jeremy, W0JRL, the System Engineer for all the work on the SkyHub Main Hub system, Bill, Bucky Buckwalter, W0SUN, our WiresX Engineer who helps with a lot of stuff. Thanks to the Rocky Mountain Radio League, the Denver Water Amateur Radio Club, the Denver Radio League, the N2K&K Westco Repeater System, Mark N0XRX, Randall, AE7RJ, Richard, VE5RH, all the other systems and operators on SkyHubLink. Once again, thanks to Kat for all her help with spotting and logging. If you'd like to be on our email list, be sure to go to skyhublink.com and click on the Join Connect tab for instructions on how to do that. And if you want to catch my stream of the flight tomorrow in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, be sure to do that here even in the next few minutes, as we'll send out tonight's net list, and I will send a link to my stream for tomorrow night there. You can go to my webpage, k0vh.com, scroll down the page for information on the net, the SkyHub link, and my newsletter, the K0VH Ham Shack. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up all the systems back to normal amateur use. Have a great night. We will look for you next week if I can get my tongue untangled and get done here. Peace and long life, everyone. Good night. God bless. This is KE0VH. Yeah, guys, stand by one.